Your Honors. Thank you to Chief Justice Budd, Casey, Fortas, Piper, Horan, and congratulations to Chief Justices Green and Ronquillo for your well-earned recognitions tonight. I bring on behalf of the legislature a warm welcome to Judge Ghilardi as incoming president of the MJC and best wishes for future success and the troubles that await. I've been working professionally since 1996. I've been practicing as a member of the Massachusetts Bar since 2003, and I've been serving as a member of the Great General Court since 2015. In each one of these roles, every time a colleague leaves me for a new professional opportunity, and I'm tasked with picking up one of their cases or covering their portfolio of issues, I inevitably discover some bit of unpleasant work, some unwelcome surprise they quietly leave behind on their way out. A message that essentially says, I've done my tour, I took my lumps, now you suffer like I did. I think it's safe to say that Judge Matt Mechera has continued that tradition for you all. Thank you for bringing me here tonight to address you. It's his final kiss. He's leaving you by presenting me as the embodiment of his horse's backside as he rides off into the sunset with his final term as president of the Massachusetts Judges Conference. I personally think it's mean-spirited, but I'm just a patsy in his game here. I'm going to play along and dutifully play the role that he's assigned me. Judge Mechera, thank you sincerely for your tireless service in this role, for your friendship during my brief tenure as Judiciary Chair. You are an essential and all too often unheralded piece of the steel that helps to make up our judiciary branch. You've been a friend of mine in the legislature, and we thank you sincerely for your service. I know the roles aren't entirely aligned, but I look to what Judge Mechera does in attempting to bring together your caucus's strong personalities, your accomplished professionals, and individuals who are entrusted with their own jurisdictions. It's akin to what I think the Speaker has to do with 159 of his colleagues, or the Senate President has to do with 39 of her state senators. Normally I'd follow that statement with some sort of self-deprecating joke or a tired trope about politicians, but in my brief address to you tonight, I'm going to praise my colleagues, and by direct extension, all of you, for you dedicating yourselves to public service. There are two quotes I look to when we talk about public service. The first is lofty, idealistic, and is one I've co-opted from President Wilson, who was challenging college students at Swarthmore back in 1913. I think it works just as well for public service because he says, quote, "You're not here merely to make a living. You're here in order to enable the world to live more amply, with greater vision, with a finer spirit of hope and achievement. You're here to enrich the world, and you impoverish yourself if you forget that error." This is the ethos to which I ascribe the motives of my colleagues, of those in the administration or in municipal government, and especially those in our judicial branch. I believe we're in our positions because we honestly desire to serve the public, and we do our best to make our society better and fairer for as many as possible while we do so. The other quote about public service is what I view as far less optimistic a take, with a heavy crescendo of bravado, which you might expect as it comes from President Theodore Roosevelt, who said, "The weakling and the coward are out of place in a strong and free community. In a republic like ours, the governing class is composed of the strong, who take the trouble to do the work of government. And if you're too timid or too fastidious or too careless to do your part in this work, then you forfeit your right to be considered one of the governed, and you become one of the governed instead, one of the driven cattle of the political arena." It's a little dark, right? But in its bullyish nature, it contains, I think, a warning about some of the potential trappings of public service. History is cyclical, and the lessons our grandparents learned too often fade into obscurity by the time the third or fourth of the following generations take the reins. We are now in a cycle of real cynicism about public service, and we've been here before as a society. The denigration of public service servants and of our public institutions is nothing new, but nor is it anything less than threatening than what our American ancestors faced, be it when factions first surfaced during the development of our founding days, during our brief but total victory of the Know-Nothings here in Massachusetts, or even in the midst of the manufactured Red Scare. Populist demagogues seize upon a time of general malaise in the body politic, and like a worm eating away at a former presidential candidate's brain, they burrow into the public conscience. They seek to pervert it and to suit their own short-sighted and selfish goals. They seek to define who we are by creating and defining the other, and then making us fear and loathe that other. We see this most obviously with sensational but fabricated stories about what migrants might be doing in our country after they flee for their lives from theirs. The predictable outrage that follows from the general population suits the authors of those fabrications very well. But this cynicism is not limited to the presidential campaign. The United States House of Representatives creates a select subcommittee on the weaponization of the federal government, which by its very name is designed to sow discord and division in our country and welcome keyboard warriors of all stripes to dive headfirst down fantastical rabbit holes. A constitutional officer here in Massachusetts attempts to do lasting damage to the world's oldest functioning written constitution by undermining the separation of powers through the creation and advocacy of a ballot question, all in the hopes of furthering individual political ambition. Bloggers create conspiracy theories that turn people who used to hold back the blue placards a year ago into groups wearing pink shirts who stand out on highway overpasses screaming about corruption throughout police ranks and railing about a secret deep state here in Massachusetts. These efforts are destructive, and they threaten our country by chipping away at our shared identity. To be clear, I do not look upon those who question or even distrust certain actors or agencies of our government as individuals who just want to watch the world burn. A healthy skepticism is welcome. It's one thing, sometimes a necessary thing in our democracy when our government takes actions. But when that skepticism turns into a wholesale vilification of public servants, or when someone claims a pulpit in order to espouse their beliefs about the evils of the very customs and practices that make us Americans, we must all public servants, again, waken the better angels of our nature to confront those words and actions. We as public servants have an obligation not only to serve the public, but also to defend it against those who would tear down our system of government in the name of self-gain. My colleagues and I, as the temporary guardians of the sacred trust of representative democracy, must not allow policy disagreements to devolve into personal vendettas, as we see too often on the federal scale. Our partners in state and municipal government must challenge those who would damn the very functioning of government by delivering on the very promise of government. And you jurists, our final bulwark against threats to the ideals of equal justice under the law, must continue to hold yourselves out, as you have for centuries, as impartial arbiters who reaffirm our experiment in self-governance with integrity and a stoic stance against injustice anywhere and everywhere. I thank you all for doing your part and for continuing to set the example for your fellow public servants. I wish you all a great evening. Thank you.